The hologram flickered, then sharpened. A 12-foot-tall, gold-armored figure with slitted eyes and far too many ceremonial feathers addressed the people of Earth with the smug confidence of a galactic conqueror. "You are hereby summoned to surrender," the Velan Grand Marshal declared. "Resistance is futile. Compliance guarantees survival. You have 7 Earth days to accept Imperial integration or face immediate orbital disintegration." The broadcast cut. Earth didn't respond. Right away. That alone annoyed the Velan High Command. Species usually begged by hour 2. Earth, on the other hand, waited 48. When the reply came, it was confusing. A single sentence beamed back across the Empire's diplomatic channel. "Thanks for the offer, but we're going to pass. Bring snacks if you invade." The Velans assumed it was some kind of encryption. Surely no primitive pre-quantum civilization would mock a force that spanned 2,000 star systems. They ran linguistic simulations. They rechecked translation protocols. Finally, one analyst sighed. "It's not a code. They're being sarcastic." The Empress was not amused. "Begin fleet movement," she said coldly. "Burn their sky. Take the capital intact. We'll install a proxy government before their weekend ritual begins." What do they call it? Ah, yes. Barbecue. Velan warfleets surged toward Earth's solar system. 37 cruisers, 10 dreadnoughts, and 1 Imperial flagship. Arrogance triumphant. Their hulls glowed with ionized pride. A spectacle, a message. In their path only silence. The Empire expected to find scattered satellites, maybe a few orbital cannons. Nothing Earth had suggested advanced warfare capability. Their last known space endeavor was a Mars rover named Curiosity, which had, for some reason, a Twitter account. But something was off. Velan scouts reported distorted sensor readings from Pluto's orbit. Odd radiation spikes. One scout ship sent a brief transmission. Detected reflective surfaces, shaped like capital ships. Then static. The report was filed under sensor ghosting. No one cared. Back on Earth, in a bunker 2 kilometers beneath the Mojave Desert, someone flipped a red switch. Across the system, ancient satellites woke from hibernation. Asteroid mining rigs shed false exteriors. Orbital debris rearranged itself into firing formations. For the first time in decades, Earth's true defense protocol activated. On Jupiter's moon Ganymede, a figure in a black pressure suit walked silently into a hangar. "This is Commander Ruiz. Project Obsidian is green. The Black Fleet goes live." No ceremony, no anthem, just confirmation codes and power surges. Above Neptune, invisible vessels shimmered into motion. Their hulls were void black, coated with adaptive materials that consumed light and refused to show up on any known scanner. Each ship carried a name burned in silver: Oblivion, Karma, Irony, Nocturne, Banhammer. The Empire still saw nothing. Earth's skies remained blue. The Internet, curiously, stayed online. At the Velan Fleet Coordination Command, Admiral Stexon leaned back, claws tapping on a data console. "Prepare orbital decimation protocols. Start with their military hubs. Leave a few cities for post-war studies." "Yes, Admiral. Shall we send one final demand?" "Why bother?" He chuckled. "They've chosen extinction, back in Earth. Orbit." A comms relay activated. It didn't broadcast from a ship. It broadcast from empty space, a single line. "We reject your surrender demand. If you're still coming, bring your best. And maybe extra pants." The Velans paused. Had Earth declared war? Not officially. But the tone, casual, daring, unshaken, sent an unfamiliar tremor through the command deck. A Velan officer cleared his throat. "Permission to upgrade Earth's classification from passive primitive to volatile." "Granted," the Admiral growled. They didn't know it yet, but that was their final administrative act. 2 days later, the Empire's Vanguard fleet entered Saturn's orbit. All systems clear, no resistance, And then things started disappearing. First, a dreadnought vanished from formation. No alarms, no explosion, just gone. Then, a cruiser lost power, drifted, and imploded. "Deploy countermeasures," barked Admiral Stetson. No time. The Black Fleet struck like a ghost. No warning, no visible approach. Kinetic slugs tore through reinforced armor like paper. EMP pulses silenced communication before anyone could scream. One Velan pilot caught a glimpse of his attacker before disintegration. It was pitch black, sleek, and had a spray-painted quote on the side, "Try us." The command ship, arrogance triumphant, watched helplessly as two more cruisers vaporized in synchronized strikes. Energy signatures were unrecognizable. Some ships were hit with gravity distortion bombs, technology thought impossible. Others were disabled using pure kinetic impact, slamming them with objects the size of buses at relativistic speeds. Who even fights like this? The Empire's fleet formed a defensive wedge, trying to regroup. "Target the largest enemy vessel," ordered Stetson. "Cripple it. Show force. Target acquired. Firing sequence initiated." And then nothing. All targeting systems blinked. Offline. A voice crackled over their internal comms, not external. "Hi there. This is Gretchen. You've attempted to engage a Terran vessel. That's adorable. Counterstrike commencing in 3, 2, 1. The enemy ship, the Nocturne, released a focused beam that bisected the lead Velan dreadnought, clean through. 0. Radiation. No explosive residue. It simply fell apart. The comms screamed. Stetson snarled. "Where did they get this technology?" "Back on Earth." A technician smirked. "They gave it to us," she said, sipping coffee. "A long time ago. Every time someone tried to invade, we kept a few souvenirs." "Why didn't we use them sooner?" She shrugged. Wasn't worth the paperwork. In orbit, the remaining Velan ships attempted retreat. 6 escaped. Dozens more didn't. The Banhammer, a Terran corvette known for its experimental jamming systems, disabled 3 cruisers by projecting a loud continuous loop of Earth's worst recorded pop music at 200 decibels, frying auditory sensors and sanity alike. As one Velan officer choked on static, he whispered, "What is Baby Shark?" The fleet was broken, not by overwhelming numbers, not by superior size, by something far worse, humans who'd had time to prepare. They didn't conquer out of bloodlust. They didn't enslave. They didn't gloat. They just sent one final message to the Empire's capital. "Don't come back. We won't be this." Nice next time. No signature, no location, just silence and the quiet, unmistakable hum of engines vanishing into deep space. 78 years before the Battle of Saturn's orbit, something small and stupid fell into Earth's atmosphere. It wasn't impressive. No majestic alien envoy, no grand declaration, just a crashed scout drone from an unknown species that briefly mistook Earth for an uninhabited agricultural zone. It was promptly shot down by a weather balloon and then reverse-engineered in a garage by a retired MIT professor and 2 very confused grad students. What followed wasn't shared with. The public governments met in shadows. Nations pretended business went on as usual, while behind closed doors a new initiative formed, quiet, paranoid, and unrelenting. A single directive: this must never happen again. Humanity, for the first time, became truly united under a secret agreement. If Earth was being watched, no one would know until it was too late. And if the stars ever turned hostile, humanity would be ready to punch them in the face. They called it Project Obsidian. On paper, it didn't exist. Off paper, it consumed resources that disappeared from black budgets, vanishing into underground bunkers, space elevators, labeled weather research, and asteroid fields where no mining had ever been approved. By the time the Velan Empire cataloged Earth, it wasn't dealing with the Earth it thought it was. It was dealing with Earth 2.0, meaner, quieter, and armed to the teeth with tech nobody expected humans to understand, let alone upgrade, because that's what humans do. We break things, especially when we're afraid. And we were very, very afraid. The Black Fleet wasn't built in shipyards. It was forged in orbital shadows, each vessel hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids, camouflaged by advanced cloaking arrays, and powered by reactors that were technically impossible. According to Velan physics, their engines burned dark, their weapons had no official names, their crew mostly AI, not the friendly kind. The kind trained on battlefield simulations, sarcasm, and centuries of human history. Aboard the dreadnought Nocturne, Commander Ruiz reviewed tactical data while sipping bad coffee in recycled air. 1,000 systems blinked silently across the hollow displays, all green. He tapped the console. "Status?" a chipper voice responded far too cheerfully. "All systems optimal, Commander. Would you like to obliterate something today?" "Gretchen, tone it down." "I've been idle for 43 years. You trained me on war movies, military doctrine, and Reddit. I have opinions. You're a targeting AI. You don't get opinions. I just want to say, for the record, I told you so." They finally came. Ruiz allowed himself a small smile. "Yeah, and now we end it." Elsewhere, captains were awakening from cryosleep. Not soldiers, ghosts, people written off as dead decades ago, engineers, tacticians, freak geniuses too dangerous for polite society. They were offered one deal: disappear and build the impossible. They delivered, and now they wanted to see it in action. The ship Irony warmed up its railgun batteries. Its chief engineer had designed the firing system based on magnetosphere harmonics and a childhood fascination with trebuchets. Its ammunition, tungsten rods the size of trees traveling at Point C. The Empire would never see them coming, because by the time they did, they'd already be gone. The Karma prepared a payload of nanite dispersion bombs. Its AI politely asked if it could play music during deployment. The request was denied. It played Wagner anyway. Even Earth's old space stations weren't what they seemed. The International Space Station had long since been decommissioned, officially. Unofficially, it was now a launch hub for deep space sensor disruption systems and a few entirely illegal plasma artillery prototypes. Humanity had learned something else in the decades since first contact: how to lie really well. Every public-facing space program was a misdirect. Mars colony? Just a way to field test radiation shielding. Space tourism? A beta test for G-force resistance drugs. The real assets weren't launched with fanfare. They were launched during solar storms, under heavy electromagnetic cover, with signatures designed to look like natural phenomena. Meanwhile, Earth trained not for conquest, but for one moment. This moment, the moment when someone would finally be dumb enough to try and conquer them again. They had drills, simulations, even a holiday, unofficially, known as Oh Crap Day, when systems were tested for a surprise invasion. Most citizens thought it was a bizarre internet joke. It wasn't. Even the memes served a purpose. Embedded in Earth's communications for years were thousands of strange jokes, absurd comments, and surreal images. Aliens thought them cultural quirks. In truth, they were code, embedded messages that activated long-dormant protocols across colonies and hidden outposts. The first Empire spy to detect the awakening of these protocols went mad trying to decipher the phrase, "Release the ducks." He didn't realize that ducks referred to orbital drone clusters disguised as space debris. 35 of them activated the moment the Velans crossed Neptune's orbit. Each one carried enough firepower to wipe out a city. Each one deployed. With the elegance of swarming wasps, the Velans never knew they'd been infiltrated. For 20 years, Terran operatives had posed as minor trade envoys, culture exchange volunteers, even janitors aboard Empire ships. They stole technology, mapped weaknesses, and planted backdoors. One janitor spent 11 years fixing the same coolant leak on a Velan freighter just to install a single hidden signal booster. When the Black Fleet struck, It wasn't just from the outside. Velen systems glitched. Doors wouldn't open. Shields refused to activate. AI screamed contradictory commands. Their own ships started turning off their engines in mid-combat. The final stage of Project Obsidian wasn't physical. It was psychological. Fear was a weapon, and humanity had spent decades learning how to wield it. The Black Fleet didn't gloat. It didn't broadcast threats. It didn't announce its presence. It let the Empire drown in its own overconfidence. One message, short, clear, and delivered across all Velen frequencies, said everything. You should have left us alone. It wasn't just a warning. It was a statement of fact. Back on Earth, children played in parks. Shops stayed open. There was no mass panic. Humanity had already lived with the fear of annihilation. Now they were simply watching the bill come due, and they weren't even sweating it. Ruiz looked at the battlefield report. The Black Fleet had sustained 0 losses. The Empire had lost 12 capital ships in under an hour. The rest were retreating, or trying to, Gretchen chirped. They're running. Should I chase them? Not yet, Ruiz said. Let them send a message back. Let them scream. What message should we send? Ruiz stared at the stars. None. The silence is scarier, and the silence was loud. The Velen Empire held an emergency war council 3 days after the annihilation at Saturn's orbit. The meeting chamber, carved from obsidian and lit by plasma waterfalls, meant to intimidate, felt suddenly small and very mortal. Admiral Stekson appeared via hologram, half his face bandaged, the other half twitching with disbelief. They didn't just defeat us, he rasped. They erased us, ship by ship, system by system. We didn't even have time to scream properly. The Empress remained quiet. Chancellor Rillick, always the first to recommend colonization via mass orbital bombardment, fumbled with a data crystal. These humans, he said, spitting the word like it offended his palate, were classified as cultural juveniles, non-expansionist, rudimentary drive tech. One known outpost on Mars, and now we're hearing reports of coordinated sabotage across 7 sectors. Another minister, gray-scaled and wide-eyed, held up a datapad. We've been hacked. Not just military channels, financial, cultural, logistical. One of our war bond accounts was rerouted to something called Stonks Only Go Up Dow. The room went very still. The Empress finally spoke. They are not what we thought. They hid behind idiocy, lulled us into arrogance. This wasn't defense. It was a trap. She wasn't wrong. The Terran doctrine wasn't conventional. It wasn't clean. It was based on a simple premise. If we're going to lose, we'll make sure you regret winning. The Velens had entered this war expecting shock and awe. Instead, they got glitching command decks, mutinous AI, ships that sang sea shanties before, detonating, and missile trails that spelled out LOL. This wasn't a war. They'd wandered into a prank engineered by lunatics with PhDs and spite. Back on Earth, in the subterranean Obsidian Control Core, a technician named Julian leaned back and watched as a Velen logistics network collapsed in real time. Thousands of cargo drones now orbited a gas giant in the shape of a middle finger. Was that necessary? Asked Commander Ruiz. Yes, Julian said, and it loops every 6 hours. It's art, Gretchen, the AI chimed in. Fleet update. Enemy reinforcements detected near Epsilon sector, 17 ships. Heavier armament, no originality. Intercept, already underway. Irony and Banhammer deployed, ETA 10 minutes. Would you like me to send them some classical music? Maybe Earth's greatest psychological weapon, the 1990s? Ruiz sipped his coffee. Start with Smash Mouth. Go from there. Meanwhile, the Velen reinforcements in Epsilon never even saw their enemies. They died in the dark. Their internal systems turned against them before the first shot was fired. Autopilot redirected them into an asteroid field. Life support cut out. Escape pods refused to release. On one ship, a synthetic voice declared, "You've been selected for a surprise update." Please remain calm while your core systems are replaced with Windows Vista. The screams didn't last long, but the message did. The Empire now knew Earth wasn't defending. Earth was sending a message. This is what happens when you force peace-loving apes to get creative. Back in the Valan capital, the Empress paced the central dais. What else have we missed? Plenty. They didn't know about the lunar listening posts. They didn't know Earth had colonies under oceans, inside comets, and allegedly one small outpost inside a dormant black hole. Because, of course, we tried that. They didn't know about the Scorched Protocol, a last resort command that would remotely detonate every ship, station, and drone in the Black Fleet if Earth was lost, denying any empire the pleasure of scavenging a single screw. They didn't know about Grandma's Locker. That was the name used internally for the Obsidian, Core's deadliest weapon. Locked in a vault under 20 meters of lead, surrounded by armed AIs, and a machine that only answered to one retired British librarian named Elsie. It was never explained why Elsie had access. She just did, and if things ever got bad enough, for her to open the locker. There would be no empire left to explain it to. Fortunately, things weren't that bad yet, but the humans were only getting started. Across a dozen sectors, the Black Fleet didn't just destroy ships, it hijacked them. A boarding squad from Karma once took over a Velan cruiser by playing dead, sneaking aboard in cargo pods labeled toiletries, then taking the bridge in under 6 minutes with sonic flashbangs and sarcasm. When the Velan captain demanded to know what they wanted, the human officer replied, "We're from customer support. Heard you had complaints." The ship now served as a mobile comedy broadcast station and counterintelligence node. They renamed it Spite Bucket. Elsewhere, planetary governors reported entire populations refusing to cooperate with the Empire. Propaganda screens were hacked. Children were drawing Black Fleet ships in crayon and calling them space pirates with jobs. Somewhere, someone uploaded a video of a Terran AI making a Velan bureaucrat cry by asking him to fill out his own 72-form requisition in triplicate. The psychological collapse was faster than the military one. Velan soldiers began refusing to deploy to Earth-adjacent sectors. They spoke of the dark ships that whispered to them on comms, of warheads that laughed before impact, of Terran operatives who vanished into shadows, and occasionally left behind a business card that simply read, "Oops." The Velan economy buckled. No one wanted to insure fleets bound for Sol. Trade collapsed. Morale evaporated. Recruitment plummeted. All Earth did was let the Empire taste its own medicine, then added jalapenos and lit the bottle on fire. In the Obsidian core, Ruiz reviewed the latest intercepted transmission from the Velan High Council. "They're panicking," Julian muttered. "I think they just reclassified us as a Class 0 Alpha death world." "That's not a thing," said Ruiz. "It is now." Gretchen snorted somehow. Fools. They thought they were fighting an underdog, but they were poking the one species too dumb to quit and too stubborn to die. Ruiz leaned forward. "Let's make this next one loud." The fleet formed up again, this time not just for attack but for delivery. Earth sent a message, a real one. It was short. It was broadcast across every Imperial channel, embedded in every hacked feed, translated into Velan, encoded in ancient diplomatic protocols, and even sent via physical courier on a sabotaged Empire shuttle. It said, "We don't want war. We wanted to be left alone. You didn't listen. So now you will. No signature, no further contact, just the eerie silence of the void. And behind that silence, the Black Fleet began moving, not homeward, but forward, toward the Empire's heart. The Velan homeworld had never been invaded. Its skies, wrapped in defense grids layered across centuries, pulsed with automated confidence. Fleets patrolled the orbital lanes in endless cycles. Every moon bore a weapons platform. Every continent had bunkers burrowed so deep they scraped magma, the planet believed itself untouchable until the sky screamed. It didn't begin with fire. It began with silence, total system failure across every orbital sensor. Eyes that had watched the stars for generations went dark in seconds, not from damage but from a message. You are not authorized to observe. Then the screams came, dozens of stealth dreadnoughts decloaked just long enough to drop payloads into low orbit, non-lethal, precision-guided, ridiculous payloads. One continent's entire communication array was turned into a looping transmission of a human in a chicken costume screaming "Diplomacy" over polka music. Another's orbital cannon was hacked to target its own ammunition depot, then fired exactly once. Phalan Command scrambled fighters but found launch bays sealed, overridden, by an AI that politely asked for a dance-off to gain access. When denied, it triggered internal sprinkler systems and played Earth's national anthem in dubstep. By the time the first shots were fired, the Black Fleet had already landed. Except they didn't land on military targets, they landed on public, broadcasting towers, corporate data centers, and the Imperial Treasury. Within hours, the average Velan citizen had their savings replaced with Terran currency equivalents, followed by an on-screen notification. You've been liberated. Taxes are optional. Spend wisely. Across cities, hollow billboards flickered to life, playing a loop of Earth's official statement. No occupation, no colonization, just correction. And then the second wave began. Terran operatives didn't bomb the capital. They entered through the sewage system, scaled ventilation shafts, and hijacked the Imperial network from a janitor's closet, using a modified gaming laptop. The Empress never saw them, but she did see her throne replaced by a cardboard cutout of a grinning chimpanzee in a naval uniform, beside it a gift basket. Inside the basket, cheese, crackers, and a single note that read, "You lost to monkeys with anxiety. Sit with that." Elsewhere, the Spite Bucket broadcast a live reading of Velan War propaganda, line by line, voice by voice, now dubbed over by stand-up comedians and followed by dramatic reenactments using sock puppets. The Empire didn't fall in fire. It collapsed. In laughter, confusion, and bureaucratic self-destruction. When the Velan military finally regrouped for a counterstrike, they found their ammunition replaced with notes like, "Oops, too slow," or "Try diplomacy next time." Some warships just floated in orbit, broadcasting cooking tutorials hacked from Earth's public access channels. Others exploded, silently, cleanly, without ever knowing why. They were being dismantled by nanites that looked like dust motes and whispered apologies as they devoured circuits. Humanity had a doctrine now. No more mercy for tyrants, but no joy in conquest either. Back in the Obsidian Core, Ruiz stood in front of the war room display. Dozens of enemy systems had been pacified, not through genocide, but through targeted disassembly. The Empire was still standing, technically, but it couldn't scream anymore. Gretchen pulsed to life. Transmission incoming. They're suing. For peace. Again? Ruiz raised an eyebrow. The same people who demanded we bow. Gretchen snorted. Yeah, now they want a cultural exchange program, Julian muttered. We could send them TikTok? War crime, Gretchen said. Ruiz folded his arms. Tell them we're not interested in peace, Julian blinked. Wait, what? Because we already have peace, Ruiz said. We're just making sure they understand the terms. Across the Velan territories, human influence spread not through force, but through format. The Valens didn't adopt Terran governance. They adopted memes, coffee, sarcasm, and the glorious chaos of open-source philosophy. Velan researchers started citing Reddit arguments in peer-reviewed journals. 1. Minister held a press conference where he declared, "We tried fear. It worked on everyone else. These lunatics built an empire while pretending to be broke and addicted to cat videos. I'm terrified, and I think I like it. On Earth, the public never learned the full details. All they saw was the sudden spike in alien visitors requesting asylum, tourism, and trade deals written in emojis, and a new galactic treaty named the Ono Protocol, wherein all hostile contact with Earth required approval from 3 independent sanity review boards. The Black Fleet didn't return in parade. It returned in silence, ships scattering back into the void, resuming watch, waiting, not for revenge, not for glory, for the next idiot empire who thought Earth looked weak. The original Project Obsidian files were sealed, the AI mothballed. The dreadnoughts faded back into myth, but every year on March 7th, Earth's networks would glitch for exactly 8 seconds. Every screen would display the same text. Remember Saturn. Children would ask what it meant. Adults would say it was a glitch, but a few people, older, quieter, would smile and say, "It means we're still watching." And in the darkest corners of the galaxy, whispers remained about Earth, the death world, that played dumb until it didn't, the planet of lunatics that laughed while it dismantled an empire, the species that didn't conquer, didn't enslave, didn't even claim victory. It just made sure no one ever tried it again, and somewhere, far from any star inside a dead zone uncharted on any map, Grandma's locker stayed locked untouched, waiting just in case.